Here. Family.
Katy Sperry says, "Dudes, I'm watching Love is Blind. It's my addiction." Willow says, "I only have a t-shirt on, I look like white trash Winnie the Pooh." Built Outdoors says, "Busting missed all the conch yesterday." Scribbles says, "LMFAO bustin'." Katy Sperry says, "Oh, Winnie the Pooh." Built to Outdoors says, "THD sucks, video ran over time." Scribbles says, "Sounds like a chick show." Katy Sperry says, "No way. Man, watch it." Willow says, "Instead of a honey pot, I got my hands stuck in a weed jar." Scribbles says, "Gay men." Willow says, "I like Love is Blind and Love on the Spectrum." Scribbles says, "There you go, busting is gay." Katy Sperry says, "Why you hatin', man?" Katy Sperry says, "Me too, Justin." Katy Sperry says, "Justin is my spirit animal." Willow says, "Me and Katy know a good show when we see one." Willow says, "And Katy is moo bestie." Scribbles says, "I'll stick to watching The Labyrinth." Katy Sperry says, "I get to be a bridesmaid in his wedding W/420. Katy Sperry says, "Confirmed." Willow says, "Me and Katy gossip on the phone while we watch shows." Built to Outdoors says, "Bustin' spirit animal is anything that can suck its own pecker." Katy Sperry says, "Girl, we whine too." Scribbles says, "LMFAO Builta." Willow says, "Hell yes, queen." Built to Outdoors says, "Marilyn Manson don't count." Katy Sperry says, "Jay, if you marry 420, can I wear a pink dress?" Scribbles says, 420 is movie-ner. Built Outdoors says, I lost moo appetite. Willow says, yes, pink was the original idea. Scribbles says, I also lost moo appetite, no mac and cheese. Willow says, I just gained a appetite thinking about the honeymoon with 420. Katy Sperry says, we go into Vegas first for male strippers. Willow says, me so hungry. Scribbles says, Thunder Down Under. Willow says, Katie has big oiled up massive pipeline male strippers. Katy Sperry says, schlungs all night long. J. Built Outdoors says, well, putting on my pants now. Katy Sperry says, lol. Willow says, banana hammocks flying everywhere. Scribbles says, yes, Bilta, it just got extremely gay in here. Katy Sperry says, flippity floppity. Willow says, slapping me in the eyeballs. Built Outdoors says, not no rabbiteers caught tie. Katy Sperry says, a nice cheek slap, J. Katy Sperry says, lol Bilta. Scribbles says, I send busting a gerbil as a wedding present. Katy Sperry says, didn't Richard Gere do that? Katy Sperry says, the gerbil thing. Built Outdoors says, he pets the wrong end scribs. Scribbles says, Justin loves to that. Scribbles says community guideline violation. Wheelo says, so you can't go live? Scribbles says, not on the other channel.
Alright, you turtle, I hear you. Over here trying to walk on water. He's like, I see your fat ass, you better feed me. I see you.
Wheelo says, oh shit, I reported your channel but I didn't think it would be effective. Katy Sperry says, you had to know that was gonna happen. Scribbles says, I know it was coming. Hoss other channel is gone. I'm sure he is pissed. Katy Sperry says, lol Justin.
was him. I knew it!
Scribbles says, I gotta watch myself now. Wheelo says, I want to change my name again but I don't think I can yet. Scribbles says, Squirrel Master. Katy Sperry says, to what? Wheelo says, that's a good one, Scribs. Built Outdoors says, WHT could possibly be next Bustin. Wheelo says, I do know. Wheelo says, I'm thinking. Built Outdoors says, numb nuts. Scribbles says, Squirrel Master was definitely getting fruit cocktail. Built Outdoors says, nut bustin'. Wheelo says, that's a good one too, and it's true. Built-a masturbation in a meat freezer will do that. Built Outdoors says, tug and drub. Scribbles says, Pee Wee Herman. Katy Sperry says, Justin's a good egg. Scribbles says, I got one Justin. Built to Outdoors says, Seaman Sampler. Katy Sperry says, lol. Scribbles says, Katy Sperry's handler. Willow says, one time as a kid I seen this porn, it was from Germany and they were doing it in the snow. 20 seconds into it I gave up and said that doesn't look comfortable. Katy Sperry says, come on. Willow says, Katy is more like my handler. Scribbles says, okay Justin, I definitely got one. Willow says, she knows me best. Katy Sperry says, just wanna blend in the bushes. Ty. Scribbles says, 420's butt plug. Willow says, Scribs, that is pretty good. Willow says, Clint beats Wood. Katy Sperry says, lol. Built to Outdoors says, well, you guys have successfully got me half dressed and ruined moo appetite. Katy Sperry says, 420's butt muncher. Built to Outdoors says, and somehow my ability to escape watching westerns. Willow says, I'm eating pudding with the name 420 wrote with a Sharpie on the side. Willow says, tapioca, I gotta chew a little bit. Scribbles says, broke back busted. Willow says, I low-key love that movie Scribs. Built to Outdoors says, the fuck? Wheelo says, but The Notebook is my all-time favorite. Wheelo says, then my third favorite is Cats. Built to Outdoors says, THT1 will make you hang. Katy Sperry says, mine too. Wheelo says, Katie knows. Built to Outdoors says, I like Titanic. Scribbles says, I never seen it. Katy Sperry says, all men should watch The Notebook. Built to Outdoors says, Rose got some big tits. Wheelo says, Titanic is a little too cheesy for me. Katy Sperry says, Rose could have saved Jack. Wheelo says, Katie, remember when he hangs from the Ferris wheel? Guy choke up so bad. Built to Outdoors says, not sure WHT happened in the movie though. Scribbles says, so I should watch The Notebook with Mrs. Scribbles. Katy Sperry says, Justin, yes gong. The romance. Built to Outdoors says, yes Scribs. Built to Outdoors says, you probably be crying. Wheelo says, yes Scribs, you shouldn't even have to ask that. Katy Sperry says, Justin, or he says, what do you want? What do you want? Wheelo says, Katie right. Katy Sperry says, then holds his chest. Wheelo says, man, that movie is so good. Katy Sperry says, the house he built for her. Wheelo says, he builds the house. Wheelo says, he keeps seeing her in the nursing home. Scribbles says, I'm lost. Built to Outdoors says, nothing compared to Mood You're Blind. Katy Sperry says, watch the movie Dummy. Katy Sperry says, on how they died together. Ugh. Wheelo says, you go watch the movie. Katy Sperry says, Willow says, guaranteed tearjerker. Katy Sperry says, I've watched it 12 times. Scribbles says, wait, is it gonna get me cuddles or? Willow says, don't ruin it, girl. Built Outdoors says, here we go. Katy Sperry says, Scribbles sure will. Willow says, yes, Scribs, you will get some skin. Katy Sperry says, lol. Scribbles says, okay, I'm putting it on tonight. Katy Sperry says, get a pizza and watch it with Mrs. Scribs. Built Outdoors says, you guys stop fucking with the boy's head. Willow says, bet he won't, Katy. Katy Sperry says, Justin, it'll never happen. Willow says, bet me, Katy. Scribbles says, fuck a pizza, I want homemade macaroni and cheese. Scribbles says, cheese. Willow says, I personally love dramas. Katy Sperry says, eat whatever, just watch it. Willow says, I literally watched more indie film dramas than anything. Scribbles says, so it's not a happy movie. Built Outdoors says, we lost him, he already stirring the cheese. Katy Sperry says, it is amazing. Willow says, it's definitely a happy movie. Willow says, it's just got some turns. Scribbles says, I need to go get it, unfortunately, Bilta. Willow says, great, I'm watching today now. Katy Sperry says, we ain't giving you any more info. Built Outdoors says, yeah, it's happy if you like crying. Scribbles says, and alternator. Katy Sperry says, ha 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 ha. Katy Sperry says, Scribs cries all the time. Willow says, if a movie doesn't make me cry, I don't really like it then. Katy Sperry says, ditto, Jay. Willow says, I gotta watch movies alone, it's pretty pathetic. Katy Sperry says, I'm sure Mrs. B has seen it. Katy Sperry says, me too, I like to focus. Willow says, for sure Mrs. Bilto has seen it. Katy Sperry says, Mrs. B is one of us. J. Scribbles says, I locate movies that make me happy. Willow says, hell yes. Katy Sperry says, oh just watch it, doofus. The Built a Life says, I love The Notebook. Willow says, I have a list of great movies but you gotta pay attention. The Built a Life says, love it. Katy Sperry says, see we knew. Willow says, hell yes Mrs. Bilta. Scribbles says, I've already been on a bender for 3 days, I don't need to do another bender, I better get me cuddles.
What?
Remember last night when I was hitting you with Freddy?
Hitting me with Freddy?
Yeah, Freddy was wrong.
Oh boy. You would.
Willow says, the Florida Project, the kindergarten teacher, and after those two ask for others. I have tons. Scribbles says, The Goonies. Katy Sperry says, Scribs, watch the trailer, then wipe her crocodile tears. https://youtube.b/uc32 new question mark c equals 9 tvxn.
Don't do it. It's a Rickroll.
Katy Sperry says, be right back, my mom is calling.
I heard that one before.
Scribbles says, https://youtube.b/4nbtx9dbxl4 question mark C equals 5QKNZ. Scribbles says, Bill to watch this.
His favorite season is hunting season. Strangers always drive by thinking he's having a yard sale. He's not. He likes to fish, unless he's too drunk. He plans on graduating around the same time as his son. He likes telling people
Scribbles says, he takes emergency beers everywhere, even to job interviews.
he's a national hero. Because he is. His mother keeps a spit cup on her ironing board. He once cut his grass and found a car. His 2-year-old has more teeth than he does. He wants his new neighbors deported, despite sharing so much in common with them. His wedding was mistaken for a chain smokers convention. He calls the choice between having extra inches on his truck's lift or having extra inches on his penis a dilemma, even though he adds inches to his truck's lift all the time. He's proud of his kids, but he's even more proud of his mullet. He owes the local taxidermist more than he owes his bank for his mortgage. His family tree doesn't fork. He once got a DUI on his way back to the liquor store while riding a lawnmower. He wears camo, even when he's not hunting. He likes showing people his old drag racing and demolition.
Wheelo says, he once cut his lawn and found a car as cold as fuck.
Even to job interviews. He is the most redneck man in the world.
Wheelo says, that's a hardcore burn.
That's just funny.
Scribbles says, I looked the beer part.
I like the whole damn thing. That was funny. Alright, I'm going to end this stream again. I know it's getting a little ridiculous. Pick it up. Back in the truck. Be right back. Tune in.